May the words I speak be those you want spoken. May the words we hear be those you want heard. And may we live to your glory. Amen. Amen. Good Friday is a somber day for Christians. A day that commemorates the interactions of Jesus with Pilate, who ultimately fell into the fervor of the crowd and sentenced Jesus to death by crucifixion. If you joined us last night for Maundy Thursday, Jesus met with his disciples for a last meal. He provided them with his clear directive to love. And while that one four-letter word has derived so many meanings throughout history and altered through social context, Jesus tried to demonstrate the contrast of earthly rulers of his time with following the teachings of Jesus and what God intended for the world. He used the act of foot washing that night as an act of serving another to equal the playing field of his disciples. To demonstrate no man was above or had power over another in God's understanding of humanity. Jesus reads the room at dinner. He knows that his life is in danger. He knows that parables and clever teaching aside, now is the time to be clear with his disciples, or as clear as he feels he can be with them. He knows that one of his inner circle has betrayed him, and it is a matter of hours. He can feel the energy of the challenge ahead. We departed last night in silence as we stripped the altar for what was to come, where Jesus would be taken into custody and subjected to death upon a cross. Roman citizens were rarely subjected to this type of capital punishment. Romans used crucifixion repeatedly as a form of punishment for outsiders, the disgraced, or those that had little status in Roman society. In a few moments, you will hear the final hours of Jesus' life as it is recounted in the Gospel of John. While certainly Jesus is the central character of the story this evening, I would ask that you also listen to the struggles of Simon Peter. Last night in the story, Simon Peter questions Jesus' intentions of foot washing. Simon Peter cannot understand why his teacher, his mentor, his religious leader would wash his feet when he perceives that his own status is less than Jesus. Peter scoffs at the prospect. Jesus also feels that Simon Peter just doesn't understand. Jesus knows his disciple well. This is his inner circle of confidants. You can almost see Jesus shaking his head at Peter with a smirk on his face. When the story is read tonight, listen for Peter's continued, well-intentioned missteps. When the Roman authorities come to arrest Jesus, Simon Peter pulls his sword and inflicts harm on another. Feel Jesus shake his head at Peter. You can hear Jesus in contemporary language. Simon Peter, put that thing away. You're missing the point. We do not inflict violence on others. While the other disciples scatter in fear of the Roman authorities, listen as Simon Peter follows the procession to where they take Jesus while in custody. Peter clearly cares about Jesus, and yet, when standing at the gate that is being guarded by a servant who is also a woman, who asks Simon Peter if he's a follower of Jesus, Simon Peter says, no. He says no to a woman who doesn't have any social or legal status in society at all. If Simon Peter had said yes to the woman, her words still would have meant nothing within Roman society. When asked again, Simon Peter continues his denial of his relationship with Jesus. In addition, listen to the exchange between Pilate and Jesus. Pilate is a Roman Empire employee. He's a governor of the Roman province of Judea. And while that title sounds really impressive, the position of governor was of relatively low prestige and status within the empire. The Roman emperor at the time was Tiberius Julius Caesar Augustus, a slightly complicated successor to the Roman Empire. In the time period of the empire, language would have indicated that the Roman emperor would have been the Son of God, or in divine succession to Caesar. An employee of the Roman Empire, such as Pilate, would have tried to make sense of what was being told to him about Jesus in that context. His questions to Jesus about his status as the King of the Jews may have been understood within the Roman context of succession to power, and not in the actual teachings of Jesus in his life on earth as the divine. This is reinforced in the story when the chief priests are asked by Pilate, "Shall I crucify your king?" And the chief priests swear the allegiance to the Roman Empire by answering, "We have no king but the emperor." The last words I would ask you to listen to this evening, for you to think about and ponder, is the exchange with Pilate when he directly asked Jesus if he is a king. Jesus' response is about truth. The truth may have been more about not subjecting oneself to the power and violence of one leader on this earth, but about the nonviolent kindness, compassion, and equality that God asks us to live each day. But Pilate does not have time to explore this line of questioning. He responds with, "What is truth?" and walks away. What if Pilate had stayed to finish the discussion? Could the entire story for humanity have ended differently? Jesus was called to transform the world, the social, political, economic, and religious life of the day, to show the intentions of God for all of God's people. Jesus' suffering and death challenges us to try and understand the words and examples that Jesus provided while on earth. Simon Peter may be us, well-intentioned, but just falling a little short. On this night, feel grace for Simon Peter, agony for Jesus who endured the hours-long journey to his death, and the grief for humanity. Amen.